Now, the National Employers Association of South Africa has issued a notice of lockout against Numsa. This as a strike in the engineering and steel sector began today. The Metal Workers Union has rejected the 4.4% pay increase offered by employers. It wants 8% for its workers. NEASA CEO Gerhard Papenfus says that employers have an issue with the centralized collective bargaining model. He joins me now to discuss this more. Many thanks for your time this evening, Gerhard. I mean, you've come at an impasse with the union when it comes to the earnings that they are demanding. They are arguing that they gave the industry a lot of relief when they didn't get increases during the peak of the pandemic. Now they're calling on the industry to at least meet them halfway. What do you say to that argument?
Well, it's all about affordability. If a companies which can afford it, and that's our approach, they're free to give it. Our problem with centralized bargaining is that mainly big businesses which have in their ranks large employee numbers, which are union members, make determined wages, mainly sitting in meetings in Johannesburg, and Cape Town and Durban, and then want to extend those wages to smaller businesses all over South Africa. Now, many of those smaller and medium-sized businesses are members of NEASA. And we've made an offer to the union, not of 4.4%, but of 4.28%, in fact. And we said what our offer to Numsa was, if you agree to that, we will recommend that figure to our employers, and stating that if you cannot pay it, then you don't have to pay it. Now, why do we have this approach? Nobody can tell a business what salary to pay. It is just not possible, and that leads the fact that has happened in the past, and NEASA has stopped this arrangement for the last 10 years. But the fact that has happened in the past has led to the largest form of deindustrialization of the steel industry. We're simply not creating any jobs because of the interference in business. A business owner is the only person that can determine a wage. You cannot sit in Johannesburg and determine a wage for a little business somewhere in the Karoo. That is not possible. And so we say each and every business has to determine its wage. So what we offer to Numsa is to say that's a recommendation. And of course, many of these businesses pay more than that. We're not in favor of the abuse of workers, but we cannot allow wages unaffordable wages to cause unemployment. We don't want to destroy jobs. That's the first point. We want to grow an industry and create jobs. South Africa has a 44% unemployment rate. We have a 64% youth unemployment rate, and to come with an 8% increase in this time. Now, you must just remember during COVID, that was not relief given to the workers. Business did not operate as well. Business took a huge knock. There are employers that wanted their homes, their properties.
In the interest of time, I have to come in here and ask about a way forward, because you're saying that ultimately it's the employer's responsibility to decide on the wages that a worker will get.
Yeah.
But these unions are steadfast on the fact that they will strike. So the industry will collapse anyway, because they will strike and they will not work and nothing will be produced within the industry.
Well, they will strike, but the industry will not collapse. The industry will not collapse. If Numsa wants to strike, well, then they must strike. There's nothing we can do. And the industry will not collapse. And many companies, and we've got the figures, many companies is not affected by the strike at all. There are companies, this is the strange part, which I've spoken today to an industrialist. His company is affected by the strike. 50% of his workers are not there. And he says to me, his production is not affected. So they mustn't exaggerate their power. Many workers, in fact, by far the majority workers are at work. We're at work today and will be at work tomorrow.
So if you go to your members and you give them, well, this 4.28 that you're offering, and obviously it's not something they want, is there any room at all to negotiate anything further, even if it's marginal? Very briefly.
Well, yeah, of course. Yes, this is what negotiations is all about. This is what negotiation is all about. And if we sit around the table, you know, there are always different options. But this is what negotiation is all about. So we're open to any form of negotiation. We'll sit down. We met with Numsa and their leadership. Mr. Irvin, Jim and I met last week with our constituencies. And you know what? We actually have a very courteous relationship. And we can continue with that. But you know what? We cannot give increases now that will cause job losses and lead to closures of business.
Gerhard, many thanks. He's from NEASA, giving us some update on the steel sector strike that has been initiated by Numsa. Two things there, saying that they are willing to negotiate, but the unions must not over-exaggerate their power, Sally.